got a big one here at Hawkeye's House of Horrors. This one is a huge one to me, one of the most influential horror films or series of all time for me. I certainly seen them all when I was younger, so it's a bit of nostalgia going on as well. And that is Sam Raimi's The Evil Dead. Yeah, can't wait. This is my favorite horror film of 1981. This is the tops for me. Um, and I'll go over certainly I can definitely pick up some influences going on within the film. Um, but yeah, definitely when Raimi puts it in the blender, smushes it all together, and throws it onto the screen like he does with his skill, um, it's it's really great, especially since this was a very low budget film. Now, this one was written and directed by Sam Raimi. Now, this one's on the Video Nasties list in the United Kingdom. This was definitely on that one for sure. Now, this one had a budget of $375,000. So not a very big budget, low budget. When it was finally released to theaters, it did have a box office take of $2.6 million. Um, Big return there. Or in today's dollars, 2024, um, by my calculations, it should be around $8.2 million of a box office take. But really, from what I can find, I think it really made its mark in the video rentals, that being VHS or beta, and the video sales of this film in stores. Now I found out I wasn't I didn't quite realize this, but supposedly this one, The Evil Dead, has the biggest VHS sales of its year in the United Kingdom as well. So it was a big hit there. Um, but yeah, this film really shows me if you have the skill like Sam Raimi, who was um, when shooting began for this film, he had just turned 20 years old, very young man. Um, but if you have the skill that he brings forth, it doesn't matter the budget that you get, you're still going to make yourself an amazing film. Yeah, that's really what I get from this. And there are some really great visuals in this film as well. Um, and I'll try and go over some of that as well for you. Now, this one was released on October the 15th, 1981, at the Redford Theater in Detroit. That was the only theater, from what I could find, it was released to in the year 1981. Now, I'm not sure if it was for this initial viewing or if it was for when it finally got its theatrical release throughout the country. But Raimi had put ambulances outside the theater, very much inspired by William Castle and the antics he would pull promoting the films that he would be bringing out to the theaters to get people geared up and really promote the films that he's bringing to the audience. Now, this is really cool as well, as I found after Stephen King, the novelist, horror novelist Stephen King, um, said after viewing the film, and from what I can find, it was released at the Cannes Film Festival of 1982, and Stephen King was there, so he was able to see the film at that time, and he gave a rave review for this film. Um, he said, "The most ferociously original horror film of the year." Uh, I didn't bring it. I don't know if I got space for it here, but I actually have the poster to the film, and it says it, boom, like almost like middle of the poster. Um, and I'll go get to that in a sec. The visuals of that, but it says Stephen King, and then what he thinks of the film, and then as well with the poster, it's an amazing poster of the woman uh, trying to escape the evil that's pulling her into the ground. Um, a fantastic poster, and I liked all the posters to the Evil Dead films, but the original one, my oh my, it really rings a bell for me, rings a chord, I guess, more like within horror. It's a great poster. Um, but after Stephen King made this comment or gave this review of the film was finally then given a proper countrywide release that started on April 15th, 1983, and it was distributed by New Line Cinema. So this was one of their first films that they were putting out to the theaters, and that was a good grab by New Line Cinema. They must have made a few bucks on that, but it was distributed by them at that time. Now, to show you as well, I have it on DVD. I've had this for quite a while. It's on from Anchor Bay. I saw this a few days ago. Man, it's been a little while. It's been a few years since I've seen it. And I usually watch this thing every year, so it's been a while. Um, Man, I still love it. It's cool. There's got some. If you're into commentary, there's a couple of cool commentaries on here. One with Sam Raimi and the producer Robert Tappert, as well as one with Bruce Campbell, the star of the film as well. Um, so it's really good. It's DVD, not Blu-ray, but whatever. Still love it. So, anyways, when the film starts, it doesn't take very long for the film to start going. There's not a huge cast in this film, and it doesn't take 20 minutes to finally find its footing and get the story going for you. Um, but I'll get into the story here a little bit. There's not a whole heck of a lot to it really, but it's a group of five people going to Tennessee to a cabin. While going there, this is just a couple of minutes into the film. They pass these two idiot fishermen, and they're waving at Scotty, who's driving the car because he honks his horn. Those two people are actually Raimi and the producer Tappert. Uh, they're in the film, giving a pretty well the funny roles in the film. They're pretty dolty, for sure. Now to go through the five that are going to this cabin. First off, we have Ash, played by Bruce Campbell. This was, I believe, his first film. Um, and like him and Raimi had known each other for years, but he plays the title character. Uh, Now, Ash has certainly, like these films, gained a tremendous cult following or become one of the greater horror heroes or anti-heroes of film history. But what you have in this film is not quite that Ash. That shows up in the second one. He's some of the he's more well defined, if you will, in the second one. But that it doesn't hurt the character here at all because when this came out, this was originally just going to be a movie. This is one movie, not like a trilogy or um, what came after that as well with a even a TV series and a remake and a reboot and what have you. But in this Ash, he's got some of those characteristics. They're definitely there. Um, but we have the early elements of his character, but he's still funny. He's still dorky. And one thing I like about it too is he's the final girl. I mean, he's the final boy. But usually it's in horror films, it's a girl or a female that becomes the main face-off against the villain or the evil. But in this case, it's a man. So I like that, a different turn with that as well. Now, in addition, we have Ash's girlfriend, Linda, played by Betsy Baker. We also have Ash's sister, Cheryl, played by Ellen Sandweiss. She's definitely the artist of the group, or maybe to Scotty, anyone, anyway, the mysterious one or the oddball of the group. And then we have Scotty, played by Richard Domanicore, under the name Hal Delrich. And finally, or just to get into a bit of Scotty here, I find he's a bit of a blowhard. I would even say perhaps even the leader of the group, or he thinks he is, anyways. Um, he's the one that found the cabin for them. Um, when they're I think they're hearing noises in the basement. It's Scotty. He's the one that steps to the plate and goes to the basement to investigate. So I kind of got him in that leadership or the main person of the group, or because he's a blowhard, he definitely thinks he is, anyways. Um, and then finally, we have Scotty's girlfriend, Shelley, played by Teresa Tilly under the name Sarah York. Now, these two actors changed their name because I think they were under the Actors Guild or something like that, and had to change their name because it was such a low budget, or I forget exactly why, but that was the reason why they had done so. Um, Now, these five, to get further into the story here, they happen to find the Book of the Dead. Um, Foolishly, of course, they read it and then play a reel to reel of, I believe it was the owner of the cabin who owned the Book of the Dead. Oopsies. We may have just woke the dead up there with that one. To me, though, it is what comes after this point um, that delivers such a terrific punch for me in this low budget horror flick. Now, to give you a further story about this film, the first time I saw this was at my 12th birthday party. Uh, this was one of the films we rented. This was the one. This is the big one for us. Um, of the films we watched that night. It it was awesome. Now, definitely a question: should some 11-year-olds and a 12-year-old just turned 12, um, should they be watching a film like this? Probably not, but we loved it anyway. Now, as I said earlier, Raimi and Campbell grew up together and had actually made 8 millimeter films together in the past. Now, back in 1978, Raimi, Campbell, and producer Tappert, um, he had also, Tappert, he had actually also worked on Xena, Princess Warrior. And interestingly, he's married to her as well, which is kind of cool. Um, Now, they created a short film back in 1978 called Within the Woods to gain interest to investors of making a full length feature that was then called The Evil Dead. Um, After this, people were approached by all three of them to get money into the project until they finally got the amount that they got to make this film. At the time of its release, it became a well known splatter flick um, due to Mm, I would say Raimi not giving a rat's behind if it was censored or needing to get an R rating, um, which is one thing I would say that I really love about this film or really drives me to this film is that stance in that very young, very fresh, very chaotic way of filmmaking on a low budget like that. It really drives me to this. Now, as well, when it was finally released to theaters in the United Kingdom and the United States, it then got an X rating. It was never rated R, this film. Um, and then when it was released to VHS or tape and then later DVD and Blu-ray, it's not rated. It's unrated. So, Now, definitely to go over some things I love about this film, and things that are like seared in my mind about this film. Um, I remember fairly early in the film, Cheryl drawing on a pad of paper with an open window, the wind whistling around her, and becomes possessed at this point, and her hand starts drawing this crazy face. Um, totally remember that. And the basement, um, the door leading to the basement, the chains rattling on it. Oh, I remember that so very well. And of course, the high levels of gore in this film. Uh, I totally remember that as well. Now, the makeup in this film was done by Tom Sullivan. He would go on to work on all of the sequels as well. Uh, I mean, yeah, the makeup isn't, spectacularly amazing, but man, I love it. It's great. I love the work he did in this film. It's really good. I love it. Now, the music is by Joseph Loduca. He also worked on all the other Evil Deads, as well as Xena as well. He as well worked with Sam Raimi, and his music is a big plus to this film as well. Um, for me, it really jumped out, or it really, man, that worked excellent when Cheryl is running back to the cabin from the woods. I thought that was a terrific scene right there, with the music leading the way. Um, and sometimes the music is just like rumblings. But my oh my, is that ever effective when you're really in this one location in the cabin, and you can't escape. They even try to, and they can't get out of there. Now, to go into that scene with the music of Cheryl coming back to the cabin, I would just have to say the first time I saw this, way back in the day, I thought she was in huge trouble. She already was in huge trouble, and she's going to be in huge trouble. But at this point, I thought she was in horrible trouble. Um, but that the unknown at the time force in the woods was going to get her, and it was going to be bad. Um, Luckily, they open the door for her and bring her inside, outside of the cabin. Now, one thing I love about this film as well, and this is one thing that really works in this film, and it doesn't take a $20 million to come up with this, but I really love some of the camera angles in this film. Um, it really helps in setting it apart from other films at that time, or at a lot of other times as well, um, to go along with the buckets of blood we have in the film too. I love the chasing camera. That to me is like a staple of Evil Dead. That look, going through the woods, or at the beginning of the film, going through a swamp, or at the end of the film, going through the cabin. I had never seen that before. I loved it, and I can't put my finger on it, what's film specifically, but I have a feeling that other films, or other filmmakers took this idea and put it in their film, perhaps. I can't uh, pinpoint exactly what films, but I think this was borrowed by other filmmakers, that style, which I love. And there's some very nice low ass camera angles too, like very low, um, a bit of old school filming techniques, um, even from at the point of when this was filmed from a long time ago. And it's very effective in this film, very effective. Um, Now, I love when you first come to the cabin, you can just hear the porch swings slamming up against the side of the cabin. It really sets you in that place. It does a great job in that. And then when you get inside the cabin, you feel like Toby Hooper is the interior decorator. Showing me one of the influences of the film was Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Other influences certainly are Night of the Living Dead by George A. Romero, and being the one setting, and not being able to escape, and when trying to, your best bet is to stay inside the house. Um, and perhaps I would say maybe even some Italian influences as well, like Dario Argento or Mario Bava, or maybe even Lucio Fulci. Just these high levels of gore um, that weren't commonplace in the United States at the time that this was filmed. Now, I love when Campbell does get into the basement, and then the camera is right, obviously right there, but then it does a 360 around the basement, revealing to you the basement and coming back to Campbell. It's very similar to Richard Franklin's Road Games, just in the sense he does the same thing, also from 1981, and showing the character doing a 360 of the room and all the characters in it and returning to the character, the main character that you're looking at. Um, I love that. It's very artsy, I guess. I don't know, but it's a very good way of revealing things to you, to the audience. I really like that in this film as well. Now, definitely the most controversial scene in this film is Cheryl running into the woods. Um, Absolutely, probably at the time when you see this for the first time, that is one thing that'll you'll remember. Now when she runs into the forest, the trees attack her, and then in the end they actually rape her. Um, and to many, this crosses a line. And to me, I would say, yes, absolutely, it crosses a line. When you deal with that in any film, it crosses a line. Absolutely. But I do feel that this film is so ratcheted up and cranked up and trying to create a new horror film, horror experience um, that it delivers on a terror that makes the scene a success to some people. Um, Other people, it crosses that line and they shouldn't have done that in doing so. So I would just ask a question. Did we need to see where this scene goes as a viewer? No. Um, I do believe Cheryl was already possessed. It had nothing to do with that. It was just ratcheting that scene up even further. Um, and her being attacked by the trees alone before any of that happened was great in how it was shot and should have already bring terror to the viewer. It's already set. So yeah, for anybody out there who thinks that that scene crossed the line, I'm with you. I'm with you. It may have done that, and like in the second Evil Dead, it has a scene just like that, but it doesn't jump that far or cross that line. Now, not too long after that, I did love the scene of Ash and Cheryl leaving the cabin. He's going to drive her to the nearest town where they can spend the night away from this cabin. The other three are standing in the doorway with a bright, shining light behind them. Very nice look. Really good. Really like that. And I love the overuse of fog here. Like the howling. When I think of fog in a horror film, if I were to sit down and write down films that really do it well, this one uh, is great too. It really overuses that fog in creating that atmosphere for you. Really good. Um, Now, absolutely, when Cheryl finally does turn into a deadite, while at this time, um, I don't think they were known as that. They were known as fake Shemps, reference to the Three Stooges in the credits. Once she finally turns over, the party crowd, the birthday party crowd that my initial viewing of this film was shocked, but man, oh man, were we ever ready for that roller coaster ride of terror when that happened? And we were right in the film. Boom, 100%. I remember that very well. The biggest yuck in the film when it comes to the gore, to me, is when Linda gets stabbed in the ankle with the pencil. Ooh, still, I'm like, ugh, when I see that, ouch. Uh, Big yuck for me right there. I love as at the end of the film, you're like, really in the third act, Scotty's hair length changes. Very cool. I love that. Just showing your low budget there. That's great. Um, and then Linda, Ash's lady, when she turns into a deadite, she's nice and creepy. Especially when she sings that song as well. Very good. We also get to see Ash almost use a chainsaw. Not quite yet. Uh, don't worry, it happens. And I love it. They do this in the second one as well, when Ash takes Linda's head off with a shovel. Um, while he's in the attempts of burying her body. That was great. And when this happened at my 12th birthday party, this got the biggest laughs of the night. And people were just, yeah, cheering at the screen. It was just, we loved it. It was so funny. Um, and one thing as well, I thought it was showed a very nice imagination. Um, when Campbell is standing in front of the mirror, looking at himself, and he touches it only to find a pool of water. That was really good as well. Now, in watching the film, you learn things about these deadites, like how to deal with them, or certain things about them, like they like to puke 2% milk. Their deaths are rather gruesome. Um, Dismembering them is a way to keep them at bay, um, but they don't die. They still move. Um, but in this film, burning the Book of Death will first bring some very cool claymation. I think that was claymation. Very cool. And then bring about their long, dramatic, graphic deaths as well. Now, when this was originally edited, it came in at 117 minutes, almost 2 hours, but it was edited down to a quick 85 minutes. And that is one thing I think that works extremely well with this film is the length of the film. It's under an hour and a half. It goes by at a nice, rapid, brisk, sprinting speed. That really works in this film very well. Um, Trying not to let you get much of a breath anywhere in this film. It's really good. And the car that they're driving in this film was actually Sam Raimi's personal car. And I think he used it in every film, that that type of car. I didn't write it down. I'll put it in the credits exactly what car it is. My apologies out there to anybody just shaking their heads at me about that. Um, and then it was filmed in a cabin just outside Morristown, Tennessee. Since that cabin has burned down, um, but lots of people have gone there to see where this film was filmed at that specific spot. Now, filming began in 1979, which is not surprising because it does have a very late 70s feel, much like The Shining. Um, but filming completed on January the 23rd, 1980. Um, Interesting to note too, Joel Cohen was an assistant editor of this film and edited the tool shed scene where Ash um, is getting rid of Linda, the Deadite, which was very well edited. Very good job on that one. So yeah, that's it. The Evil Dead. I love this film, but I know at the same time this is a film you either love, and when that happens, you're a fan of Evil Dead. Or, unfortunately, you may be shrugging your shoulders a bit. As I said, I saw this when I was younger, so each of these films definitely has a nostalgia going on with it. Um, but this is my favorite horror film of 1981 and is at the top of the list for me. But there you have it. Um, so, that was a blast. Can't wait to bring you my next review, which may be shortly. But until then, stay scared.